This week I've been on an amazing vacation, a cruise with my family through the Caribbean. And one aspect that I continually marvel at is the contrasts of the Caribbean. They're the beautiful colors of the ocean that change and are so gorgeous. There's the sky and the changing colors of the sky and the contrasts that happen day in and day out. There's the contrast of the islands that we visited. Some are flat, some are mountainous, some are filled with really, really wealthy folks, and others are filled with really, really poor folks. And that diverse world only continually reminds me of God's amazing creativity. One of the islands we visited was St. Kitts, which is kind of out there in the eastern Caribbean where the Atlantic meets the Caribbean Sea. And when we were on St. Kitts, my sons convinced Karen and me that we could rent ATVs and drive around this island, which we did. And when we drove out of the rental area, we came to one of our first roundabouts. And remember, in St. Kitts, we drive on the left side of the road. So Karen and I were just trying to figure out how to drive these things, let alone come up to a roundabout and figure out which way to go around this circle and how to get off. But we put our hands on our sons' lives and they showed us the way. But one direction we went off to led us down a really beautiful part of the island that is not as developed, but there are lots of plans, and it's going to be sort of geared and marketed to the rich and famous of the world. Beautiful harbors are going on, these gorgeous hillside homes, the roads are paved. It is stunningly beautiful. It's on its way out to the island of Nevis. When we came back at that same roundabout later in the day, we took another road, and that road led into the more developed areas of St. Kitts, kind of up toward what was an old volcano. And along that ride, it was a much different St. Kitts. It was third world, like we had not really seen since we'd been in Kenya. And it was noticeable, the difference. The tourists were gone. The locals lived much simpler lives. Lots of need was obvious. And it occurred to me in that roundabout where we made those choices to either go into the wealthy side, or you could choose to kind of take your ATV and go into the poor side of St. Kitts. It's kind of a Lenten metaphor, if you will. As we travel into the first seasons of Lent, I hope that you find yourself in those roundabouts of life. It's really where the cross intersects and where we have choices to make. We can choose to take one of those and go off and see just sort of first world beauty and never look behind, or we can choose to see what exists on the rest of the island, the sort of the underside, the underbelly of life. We can decide, where does Christ go? Which part of that island does Christ reside? I hope for your Lenten journeys you wrestle with that question. You go inward to try to figure out how you're going to get off that roundabout so that you see the world through God's eyes and not just through the eyes that you want to see. We'll see you Sunday.